And let's get back to our breaking news, the capture of the so-called affluenza teen Ethan Couch and his mother in Mexico. Moments ago, we heard from the sheriff of Tarrant County, Texas. He said that Couch will be put into the juvenile system when he is returned to the U.S., while his mother will be arrested, and she will also face criminal charges. Let's talk more about this case with Georgetown law professor Paul Butler and CNN legal analyst Paul Callan. Paul Butler, let me start with you here. What can they expect when they are returned, the two of them?
So they will be arraigned, and the teenager will be charged with probation violation. You know, so many people go to prison for probation violation, as many people in prison for that than for the substantive offense. You know, I keep thinking of what a stark contrast this case is with the Tamir Rice case. So we have a rich white teenager who kills 4 people, and he gets probation. Tamir Rice, innocent 12-year-old boy playing with a BB gun, he gets shot by the police, and there's no indictment, no prosecution of that police officer. You know, African-American kids often deserve the same kind of break that this rich teenager got. They don't get it. They get zero tolerance. So what this case, these two cases really expose is unequal justice. One system of justice for rich folks, another for people of color.
Right. Well, just for the background for our viewers, there was a psychologist who testified for the defense in this case of Ethan Couch, saying that he shouldn't go to prison, that he should be able to see his family, and that he was just a victim of being brought up in a wealthy family and really didn't know right from wrong. So, Paul Callan, why don't you respond to that?
Well, you know, I wrote an article for CNN.com when this case first broke saying that the cure for affluenza is prison. And I was appalled, and I have to agree with Mr. Butler, that this sentence by this judge, by the way, who chose not to run for re-election, is an outrage. The defense essentially was that he was so wealthy and privileged that he hadn't been given, he thought that wealth could buy its way out of criminal charges, and apparently it did here. So I think you'll see a new judge coming down very, very harshly. I think you'll see at least a 10-year sentence down the road on this, and I think ultimately justice will be done in this case. Yeah,
he will go back to court, and his case may even be moved to adult court, so we will see what happens with that. He may serve another 8 years or more in prison if found guilty. But what about the mother's role in this case, Paul Butler? What charges could she face? I mean, the sheriff said it right there. He wasn't at all surprised that she helped her son go on the run.
Yeah, so she's looking at harboring a fugitive, obstruction of justice, Texas state charges because we have international borders crossed, possibly some federal charges as well. Again, she kind of aided and abetted his affluenza defense. The idea was that she and her husband had coddled this kid so much that he didn't know right from wrong. He had unrealistic expectations. So is she culpable? Sometimes we think about pretextual prosecutions where prosecutors are really upset about something else, but they go over the crime that they can get you for. Think of them as going after Jimmy Hoffa for tax evasion, for example, Al Capone for tax evasion. It wouldn't surprise me if prosecutors kind of have an attitude about this lady and her husband and are looking to bring a case against her.
Paul Callan, let me ask you about this beer pong video, because that was released just before they disappeared. So we have just 60 seconds here, but tell me how much you think that might play a role. There it is right there. I mean, we don't see Ethan Couch drinking, but part of his probation was he wasn't supposed to be around alcohol. So how much will this play a role, do you think, in what happens?
Oh, I think it'll play a role, because even though you don't see him drinking, all they have to do is call as witnesses some of the other kids who were at the party, and they can prove undoubtedly that he was drinking. But I think the big thing here is fleeing the jurisdiction. Clearly, all of the evidence suggests this was a permanent move that was being planned, and that's going to be a harsh retribution by the court to send a message that you can't flee the jurisdiction, especially when they cut this kid such a break. 4 people dead, 1 brain damaged, 3 times the legal limit, and Valium in his bloodstream as he rode down that road at 70 miles an hour.
And somehow he ended up in the lovely resort town of Puerto Vallarta, right?
Right. Well, boy, I'll tell you, when he becomes a fugitive, he picks a luxury resort. I mean, he remains in character, doesn't he, Randy?
There you go. All right. We will leave it there. Paul Callan, Paul Butler, thank you both very much.
Thank you.